All right, on to the next section. This is 11.2, more on geometry. So this is I can understand complementary and supplementary angles. So complementary, C-O-M-P-L-E, okay, and supplementary is S-U-P-P-L-E, and then mentary. Okay, so complementary and supplementary angles. Now notice the spelling on each one of these. Most people don't mess up with the supplementary. That is an LE at the end here. You may have heard of a compliment. Somebody gives you compliments, says you look nice that day or did something really well or something like that. We're not talking about that type of compliment. This is spelled differently and it means something different. So in the warm-up, let's define these. So remember, we talked about these the other day. So adjacent angles, and they are angles that are right next to each other. And remember, they share a side. So they've got a side in common. And vertical angles are pairs of opposite angles, that are made by two intersecting lines. Okay, so really important that we keep all the vocabulary straight and remember what they are. How many degrees are there in a right angle? In a right angle, there are 90 degrees. There's our little degree symbol right there. And then how many degrees are there on one side of a straight line? On one side of a straight line, there are 180. And then the cool thing about this was, remember, if we've got two lines that intersect, we've automatically formed vertical angles. And if I know the measure of this one right here, I know the measure of this one right here, because we can go through and we can do the arithmetic to figure out, you know, if this is this size, how big is this one right here? So whatever this one is over here, those two right there, those are vertical angles. They're congruent. They're equal to each other. And these two right here are vertical angles. They're congruent. They would be equal to each other. So keep those things in mind as we move on through this. So along with the adjacent and vertical angles, there are some other angle relationships that we use all the time, and here are two of the most common. So one of them is complementary angles, and the other one is supplementary angles. So let's talk about what those are. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Two angles that add up to 90 degrees, and the other one, supplementary, are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Now, most people get those words and they figure them out, and they're not that bad to work with, but what they forget is they can't keep them straight. They can't remember now which one added up to 90 and which one added up to 80. Well, if you look at that, can you figure out a way that you could keep them straight? You know one of them's 90, you know the other one's 180. Figure out how you can keep them straight. Well, complementary and supplementary, those are in alphabetical order, and these are in numerical order. So they're in alphabetic, and numeric order. Alphabetic and numeric order. So what that means is, if you think, okay, it's complementary and supplementary, even supplementary and complementary, however you want to remember it, just remember the one that comes first in the alphabet is the smaller of the two. So complementary, they add up to 90, and supplementary, they add up to 180 degrees. Now you have some problems on your assignment that are literally this easy. All it says is name the relationship. So we're going to look at the two of these, and we're going to stare at them for a second and think, all right, I just need to name them, complementary or supplementary. So you'll notice that this right here, they're next to each other and they make a straight line. So they make 180 degrees on that one side of the straight line. So that one's got to be supplementary. Supplementary. Okay, these two are right next to each other, so we could say that they're adjacent, but we can be more specific than that on this particular one, because this is a right angle, and if this is a straight line, that means this one right here has to make up the difference between, okay, there's 180 degrees on this side of the straight line. If 90 of them are over here, that means 90 of them have to be over there, which makes the two of those complementary. Okay, so those are complementary. And again, make sure you get the spelling figured out right now. Okay, take a look at this one right here. This is a little bit more classic about the way we'd see two angles that add up to 90 degrees. We see them right next to each other. There's that square. So that means between the two of them, those make 90 degrees. So again, that's complementary. If you'd like to write a C-O-M-P-L-E with a period, I'm okay with that, but I really would appreciate it if you wrote the words out completely most of the time, or at least until you get used to spelling those. So complementary. Okay, and then this one right here, again, we've got this extra line right there. It doesn't matter. What we're looking for is the two of those make a straight line, so that means they add up to 180 degrees, so those are going to be supplementary. And again, if you wanted to stop right there, not the end of the world on the assignment, but do spend enough time spelling these that you don't forget how to spell them. All right, now, some of them, they say name them, and some of them you actually have to use the information that you know about the angles in order to figure out one of the missing angles. So it says find the measure of angle B. So if this is 90 degrees right here, that means that's 90 degrees. And what I'd really appreciate is if you'd write an equation that shows how you're figuring it out. So what we're saying here is that if you add the two of those together, B plus 31, they're complementary, so that means they add up to 90 degrees. So then just finish subtracting, and you get B equals 59, and put the degree sign on there, and then circle that, and you're done. It's literally that simple. On this one right here, they make a straight line. 180 degrees over there, they're supplementary. So do B plus 117 equals 180, so we can kind of see what's going on. If you put the degree sign there, that's fine. If you don't put it on there, I'm okay with that, as long as you have it there on the end. So we're going to subtract the 117, and we get B equals 63 degrees. That's what you've got to have there. Again, another one where they add up to 180 degrees. Because those are supplementary, they make a straight line. So that's going to be, let's see, B plus 49 equals 180. We're going to subtract the 49, and we're going to get B equals 131 degrees. Now, no surprise that this is a pretty big angle. It's obtuse, and we'd expect it to be bigger than 90 degrees. Again, you can't always go off the way things look, but given that that's so small, this one's got to be really big to make up the difference between make it up to 180. And then this one right here, those have to add up to 90 degrees because they're complementary. So we're going to do this, subtract the 29, and we get B equals, on this one we get 61 degrees. Okay, circle that and we're all set. Now, take a look at the very end. I've got a thought question for you. It says another name for two supplementary angles, or angles that are supplementary, if we wanted to say that. They're called a linear pair, a linear pair. And can you see why they might call it that? So I've got an example of a linear pair right here. These are supplementary. Can you think of why they'd call it a linear pair? Why it would have this other fancy name? Well, the key is in recognizing the word linear sounds kind of awful, but the root word there, I'll just cover this up. The root word is line. So if they make a line, if they add together to make a line, then we call it a linear pair. So we can call it supplementary, or we can call it a linear pair. Occasionally you'll see the word linear pair. I want to make sure that you know what that means if you ever see it, okay? And I'm just going to write on here, I'm going to write they make a straight line. That's why they call it a linear pair. Okay, I think you'll find the assignment relatively easy on this one, and then we'll mix all these up in the next section. Thanks.